Welcome to another episode of Reflections of a CEO. In today's episode, we talk about equity and business partnerships. Specifically, would I ever give equity to someone in Jakt, the business that I've owned for 6 or 7 years? If I acquired a company, would I give them equity in Jakt? Or in general, what are my thoughts around business partners and equity? So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Oh, and just as a shameless little plug, this question was originally asked by someone in my servicebasedbusinesses.com group. And what that is a group for agency owners who are looking to grow their business and have direct access to ask questions like this and me to answer them directly based on my experience. And also in that group, we release a lot of resources and that sort of thing that we've built over the last 6-7 years building Jakt, which is my multi-million-dollar agency that I've been running for a while. So if you are an agency owner looking to grow your business, check that out, servicebasedbusinesses.com. But anyways, let's get on to the good stuff and let's dive into this episode. Today, we're going to talk about equity and partnerships. I got asked a question, and I thought it was really good, so I figured I'd turn it into a whole video segment here. So the question is this: would you ever bring on an equity partner in Jakt? Why or why not? If you ever did, what would be the requirements or the situation needed to be? Right, and then there's a couple more questions. So we'll start with this one. Would you ever bring on an equity partner at Jakt? Well, so let's rewind. For those of you that don't know, Jakt is my digital agency that I created in 2012. In fact, I had a partner when we started. So I actually had a 50-50 partner when I started the company. So I had no idea what I was doing from a legal company standpoint when I started. It was, hey, I had someone that I wanted to start this business with, and we're like, okay, we're starting out, let's go 50-50. And we filed on LegalZoom, and that's how we created, and that's how we started. So 50-50, there was no vesting. I didn't even know really what that was at the time. And that's it, right? So then, what happened, as with a lot of partnerships, what happens is then we had a partnership breakup, and after 2 years they left, and I bought them out. So that was my first stint with having a partner, and then I tried having a partner again. 2 years after that. So just timeline, started the business in 2012, end of 2014, this person left. Then in 2016, I think it was, I tried having another partner. That lasted about a year, and then that didn't work out. And now I don't have any equity partners in the business. So would I ever, back to the question, would I ever? I mean, I did, right? Now I can share a lot of things that I learned along the way, right? So business partners, I found, is a lot like dating and trying to find like the person you're going to be with, right? You have to go through, at least for me, I had to go through a few different people to figure out what is important to me when you're dating, right? It's just like when you're dating, you date someone and you're like, okay, I like this, didn't like this, you date another person, and you start finding this like criteria for what you need a business partner to be, right? And I didn't have those, quote unquote requirements, settled. And each time I had tried a new partner, all right. And I've had a couple other businesses with partners, so I've had a decent amount of experience now at this point. Not a ton, but in my 7 years, a handful of different business partners. And I've come up with new criteria on what I would like in a business partner. And with any Popal Group, which is the holding company that I that I own that owns Jakt, which will be spinning out different businesses like Pulpo Finance, for example, and some other ones. I'm gonna have business partners for all of them because I don't want to run the whole thing. I don't want to own the whole thing, right? So there's a couple requirements that I have in business partners, and there's different. I'll talk about structuring these partnerships. So it's really important, I found, to. So let me take a step back. When you're structuring a partnership with someone, what is true today might not be true tomorrow. So for example, if you start as 50-50, naturally what happens in a partnership, right? Though someone, right, at some point in time will feel like they are contributing more than that 50%, and they will feel the other person's contributing less. And when an imbalance happens, that's when I found, in general, when you start having a bunch of issues. If people don't think on both sides of a partnership that their stakes are equal and are justified, then you start having problems, right? And pretty much every time I've had a partnership and then a breakup from a partnership, that's really been the case, the root of it, right? The equity amounts people didn't think that they were good anymore, right? So you either have to renegotiate those amounts or you have a partnership breakup, right? So getting those amounts and structuring it is very, very, very important, right? So that's one thing I would definitely say. The second thing is really knowing what do you actually need in a partner, right? So for me, right, when I'm looking at a business partner, the things that are important, right? And it's interesting that this question was asked because we actually have a whole list of, when I'm hiring a business partner, here's the principles and here's the characteristics that they need. And I've actually created a whole blog post about them. As a matter of fact, I'm actually just going to pull that up while we're talking, because it was so important to document what I thought a business partner should have, that I documented it so that I always have it for reference. And by the way, this list is something that will continue to evolve over time, right? But I have an article called "What I Look For in a Business Partner," right? So there are a few things, right? If I'm getting someone as a business partner, for me and I'm speaking from the standpoint of a service-based business, as an agency, I think that person needs to be able to sell. That's one, right? If they can't sell and bring in business, it's very difficult, I found, for them to actually be a partner. Because think of it like, an easy analogy is like, think about like a partner at a law firm or an accounting firm, or at a large consulting firm. Like, you're expected to bring in business, and I think that's something now for me that is important. Like, they have to be able to bring in business. So that's one. Another thing is they have to think about money in a certain way. So one thing that's caused, and by the way, all these principles that I'm listing out are because when I've been in a partnership that didn't have it, it didn't work. So now I'm like, well, they need it. So they may change over time, right? There's other things, right? The way they think about money, right? When I've been in business partnerships where people didn't think about money the same, how to spend it, right? How to reinvest it in the business, or taking it out for yourself, or just your relationship with money in general, that caused it. So, by the way, similar to how a big problem in marriages and stuff is money. Same thing. The way you're going to spend money is a big thing, and you want to really make sure that that you're on the same page with your business partner about this. So that's one. The vision. Where do you want to take? Where do they want to go in their life? Where do they want to take the company? Right. Not being aligned on that eventually will cause issues. Right. I've had business partnerships break up because of that, because we never actually really discussed, hey, where do you actually want to be as a person in the next couple years? Where do you want to take the company? Are we actually aligned on that? So that's an important one. Who they are as a human being is a really important one. What are their values? How do they treat people? That sort of thing. Super, super important. That's also broken up business partnerships, because once I realized that we weren't aligned in that sense, then I was like, I can't work with you anymore. There's other ones that, depending on the circumstance, industry expertise, right, is important. and there's a few others, right? And all of them are, you can have your own, and I might have different ones, right, than you. But a good rule of thumb that I found is like, can I do this without them, or can I pay them? Can I pay someone to do the job, right? And that's what I found a lot of times actually with Jakt. I realized like I actually don't need a business partner because there's nothing I can pay someone to do a job, and I don't need this person. They're not adding intangible value that I can't go out and pay for, right? So when my first business partner left, I was, well, should I have another business partner? I was like, no, actually I can do this myself. And then I thought, hey, let me bring in another business partner. Realized the same thing. I actually didn't need them. And it's not in like a cocky, like arrogant way. It's just like, hey, it's just simple, like, would I give up equity, or like, are they giving me something I can't buy? Right? And so as of now, I don't have an equity partner in Jakt. I think that could potentially change though, right? There's a couple ways that it could change, right? The way I'm structuring all my businesses moving forward is that there's going to be someone else running the day-to-day, and I believe that person should probably have some equity in the business, right? So anytime we're starting a new Popol company, I will not have 100% equity. I actually want to give out equity to someone so that they have some skin in the game. They have some real upside. So with Jakt, because we're in a different situation, 7 years old, I think that will change over time, right? Might give Cody, the president, some equity right now. He gets profit share, so he's incentivized. I also think that the bigger upside on agencies is not the equity, it's actually the profit share component. So I think people also overweight how important equity is. Like, I really don't even care that much about the equity. I care more about decision-making power and profits, right? And equity and profit share can be different, right? You can have zero equity but 50% profit share, right? You can actually change those things. So part of it's also knowing, like, what are all the different structures that you can have. With an LLC, you can have different structures like that. So I think the profits are the more interesting thing. How are you going to distribute the profits, and how are decisions made, right? But yeah, for Jakt, I think it would either be perhaps the president could be getting some equity, or there's another question that was asked, what if you did an acqui-hire of a competitor, and the competitor's CEO, what if you gave him equity? Yes, so that I see that as more of like a merger, to be honest, right? Very simply, for example, if we bought another agency, a big reason why we would buy it, at least right now, is to increase our revenue and business development and sales and that sort of thing. Like, that's interesting, right? Like, say right now we're 4 million, right? We did 4 million last year in revenue. Let's say we bought someone that was doing 1 million, and they're gonna, and say our projections for the next year, we'll do 4 million again, they'll do 1 million, so combined we'll do 5 million, right? They're responsible for 20%. I'd probably give them 20%. I think that's fair. It's like a merger, right? So we'd own 80% of the new entity, they'd own 20%. Or maybe what I would say is, hey, you're not gonna own 20%, maybe you own 15%, because what you're getting is actually all of our back office systems, all of these things to help you scale. So really our weight is actually worth a bit more. So maybe our weight is 85, yours 15. I don't really know. It is something though I've been thinking about on like how we would structure that. But yeah, that's how we, just thinking out loud, that's how I would do it. If I was merging with someone, I would consider it more of a, can you close the, sorry, we're in New York, so if you hear sirens and stuff, that's because we're in New York, so I apologize. But yeah, from a fiscal, hang on. From a financial standpoint, yeah, you would come up with some formula. And by the way, some people have tried to acquire us, right? And I didn't like the deals. I was like, look, if we're gonna combine, we need to be more equitable in it. So, but you have to find the deal that works for you, right? Like, everyone is different. So yeah, if we were gonna acquire someone, I don't know what the deal exactly would be, but if we acquired someone smaller than us, I would look at their revenue as a portion of our revenue, see what else they have to offer, try and figure out some weight that we think is fair, and essentially it'd be, hey, this path forward is better for both of us. We're both going to make more money, and you're going to make more money with us than without us, and that has to be true on both sides. And if so, then you start mathing it out, right? And then there's, again, equity is one component, but then profit share is another. And you can change that every year. The profit share number can be different this year and next year, right? So you can adjust over time. It's not set in stone. Same with equity. Just because you have an equity amount doesn't mean you can't renegotiate it, right? And it can't change over time. And there's a bunch of different ways to issue equity, right? You could do it with vesting. You could have a 1-year cliff with 4-year vesting, which is essentially means that for the first year you don't get any equity if you leave, but then you start vesting your equity. So say you have 20% equity vested over 4 years with a 1-year cliff. You wouldn't get any of that equity until the first year, and then every year after that you start getting some equity until you get 20%, right? Now I was also asked about lifestyle, right? Interested on your thoughts from both a fiscal and lifestyle perspective. Lifestyle, ideally a partner helps you not have to take on the burden of running the business yourself, right? And that's finding the right partner, because I've had it where that does happen, I've had it where it doesn't happen, right? That's why I say, do you actually need a partner, or can you just hire someone to take that burden off, right? People are sometimes quick to just want to bring on partners, but from all my experience, it's like, hey, really realize you're about to get into a marriage essentially, and also realize a lot of companies fail literally just because the partnership doesn't work, right? Business is good, business partnerships fails, right? So I'm very mindful about bringing in partners, and really saying to myself, can I hire someone and just pay someone, or is it worth giving them a stake? Right, so I think it's a case-by-case basis, person-by-person basis on how to do it. But that is how I generally think about it. I don't think it's, one of the questions, do you generally think it's always better to own it 100%? No. Because like I said, I'm spinning out some new businesses. Like, I don't want to own 100%. I want someone else. I actually want someone to own a part of it, so that they're gonna fight for it like I'm gonna fight for it, right? And a good amount, right? Gonna give like 25-30% initially, and then over time 35, 40, etc. But that's because of where I'm going in life and with those businesses. I don't plan to run those day to day. But Jakt, the main business, if you're only working on one business and you're running that day to day, I don't know. Like, in hindsight, I would have maybe done it as myself and just hired people. Or if they were going to bring in revenue, that's probably the one case where along the way, if they would bring in revenue, I would give equity, because not a lot of people can bring in business. That's what I've learned. You can hire salespeople, and salespeople can be expensive, but if they can bring in business and they have some other factor, right? That's the only way I would actually consider equity for Jakt, really, at this point. Because everything else you can hire for. You can hire designers, you can hire developers, you can hire other people. That's not to say, by the way, that we're not going to distribute profits to everyone. That's something that we can do, right? But equity is different. But profits, we're going to be distributing, I'm setting aside 10% of profits this year for the team. Right, but equity is something that I don't just freely dish out. So those are some thoughts. Sasha, did I not cover anything, or what do you think else I should cover?
No, I think that sounded really good.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that's it. That's my rant on equity. Would I ever bring on a partner in Jakt? That's my answer. So you have it. Or would I give equity to someone if we did an acqui-hire? So yeah, that's it. Takeaways. If I was doing an acqui-hire, yes, I would give some equity to the person, or maybe not equity, at least profit share. There had to be some upside for them for sure. Would I give it to just someone now if they were coming in? Again, if they were bringing in business, if they could start bringing $1 million in business, yeah, I'd seriously listen to them, right? Or if someone is running the day-to-day business, President Cody, I would consider him, right? Because he's effectively running the business, so definitely gets profits right now. I would also consider giving him equity, and I am considering doing that, right? As I step back more and more. For new businesses, like I said, I went through some criteria: ability to sell, similar value system, how they think about money, those sort of things. Those are like baseline things that people need in order to become a business partner of mine in the first place. So anyways, yeah, that's it. Be careful about who you choose as a business partner, because one, if it can actually collapse your business if you don't get it right and you have a breakup, or it's going to cost you a lot of money. And I've been in that situation, right, where it was very expensive to have a business divorce. Multiple six figures, right? So getting it right is important. Everything I'm saying here is based on hard-earned lessons, but I'm glad I had them, and hopefully this helps you as well. So, all right, that's all I got.
Bye.